This conference will now be recorded.
Just give it one more minute and then we'll get started. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. I'm sure there'll be a few more people signing on as we get moving, but in the interest of time and giving the speakers plenty of time to talk, we'll get going. First of all, I'd like to, I'm Bill Lynch, the UG2 coordinator, and really I'm speaking right now on behalf of our team that Kathleen, Nick, Cordie, and Cassie that is, we're all in the background trying to keep the UG2 moving. This is our 11th webinar, and I think so. We started UG2 probably it was about 3 years ago now, and then with the pandemic, it sort of was a little slow in getting started. But I just these webinars are really super important. I'd like to not only to thank the presenters and really all the attendees as well, as it's a great form of communication between the user group all the way from an operator to a technician, an engineer, a scientist, the researchers, the whole gamut. It's really a good form of communication, as is Slack as well, and that has become very active in more in a real time sort of fashion than solving problems. But these two forms of communication are really what keep us informed and across in between all the workshops. So I want to again thank everybody, both the presenters and the attendees. Really appreciate that. We have a great lineup today. It's a continuation of what was started a couple months ago, and that was what's and what's not in my garage. And that's really going around the community and people talking about their infrastructure and their labs, so folks know what's out there. And if you're getting ready to spin up a lab, or um, you just want to maybe partner with somebody, I think it's a great opportunity there. And last 2 months ago, we had great participation all the way from Alaska to Europe, and pretty similar today. We have folks all the way from the West Coast, all the way over into Canada and over to Europe again. So great participation there. And then we have Cordie and Ben from, they're going to talk on the mission file creation via Slocum Fleet Mission Control, do a little tutorial on that. So that's awesome. Next slide. So I'll just go ahead, just real quick on the agenda. We don't pretty much just spoke to it. I'll just give a few UG2 updates. I'll introduce the talkers when we get to that part of it, and we'll just do a quick wrap up. And just for purposes, let each speaker talk, but drop anything in the chat, questions in the chat, or at the end, we'll allow a few minutes after each speaker to ask questions verbally. I think we have a raised hand, so that might help a little bit too. But or drop in the chat. Thank you. Next slide. Just again, the steering committee, and I'll talk a little bit about this on the updates, just so folks have this for a reference in the slides that you can always get from our website and from YouTube. Next slide. So just a lot of folks, we put out a call for Originally, we were looking at about 2 years for the steering committee, and with COVID, we basically kept the committee together for 3 years and to complete the workshop as well, which went super. So we're now starting the next round. We put out calls for nominations. We had 25 nominees. 7 of these are industry members. And we're going to set up an industry panel. And when the panel will select someone to represent that industry panel on the steering committee. But we're hoping to have the process completed sometime around April 13th. Also, I just recently, for anybody attending Oceans 23 on the Gulf Coast, September 22nd through 25th in Biloxi, I submitted an abstract for a UG2 town hall. So please, if you're planning on attending and we get accepted, please attend that as well. Any quick question on administrative type of things relative to UG2? All right, I don't see anything right now, so we'll go on to the next slide. So we'll kick off with James Pegg. James is for what's and what's not in my garage. James is he's with Ocean Gliders Canada, Canada Pacific Robotic Ocean Observing Facility, acronym CPROOF, which is pretty cool acronym there. I like that. James is a senior glider technician for Fisheries and Oceans Canada at the biological station in Nanaimo, British Columbia. I probably didn't say that correctly, as well as the Canadian Pacific Robotic Observing Facility, CPROOF, as I mentioned, for the past 4 to 5 years. Previous to that, he worked for 10 years as a technician working with ROVs and drop cameras, doing surveys of glass sponge reefs, cold water corals, seamounts, etc. So he comes from a vast amount of experience, and we'll go up to Canada, and James, I'll turn it over to you. I think he'll be sharing his screen. Is that correct? Yeah. You there, James? Does anybody see him? I'll tell you what, let's go ahead if he's having technical difficulties. Stuart, would you be ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, let me go ahead and introduce you, and then we'll get back to James, okay? So
Okay.
Stuart is the Endurance Array Glider Lead with Ocean Observatories Initiative, OOI, at Oregon State University. He's the glider lead for the Endurance Array, as I mentioned, of the of OOI. He's been with OOI for 11 years, and he's the glider lead for the last 8 years, and has overseen about 150 glider deployments and assists with OOI vessel mooring operation. His work in operational oceanography also includes instrument operations, data processing and analysis, and remote sensing. So that's an awesome glider background. And Stuart, we look forward to your talk. Take it away.
Okay. Okay. Let me double check. Are you seeing the full screen slides or the
We're not seeing
presenter
any. I'm
version?
not seeing any slides. Is anybody else seeing slides? No, I don't think we're the screen sharing yet.
No.
Okay, I'm getting a message saying can't share your screen. We apologize, but we're experiencing difficulties with the video conference and are unable to share your screen. Maybe that's the problem James had too?
So, Cordie, did you send Cordie your slides?
I did not. I can do so here in just a second.
So this is James. Can you hear me now?
Is that James?
Yeah, yeah. Can you hear me? I had that problem as well, plus an audio problem. I think I've got the audio problem solved.
Yeah, audio. Your audio was a little broken up. Could you try talk again?
James? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, Stuart, we'll back up again and you can send Cordie your slides in case that's an issue. Sorry about all the technical difficulties, but we'll get through it.
It's all right. It actually tells me I'm sharing my screen, but it doesn't look like maybe
Is
anybody's seeing it.
You
Well,
see it.
actually, we are seeing
Yeah,
it
I'm
now.
seeing
I'm
the
seeing
screen
it
now.
now. Yes, yes. So go ahead, Stuart, and then we'll get back
You
to
want me to go ahead?
James. Yep,
Okay. Full screen version.
got it. Yep, everybody see that? A little couple thumbs up, maybe. Yep, good.
Okay. Well, as Bill said, my name is Stuart Pearce, and welcome to my garage talk. So I'm the glider lead of the endurance array portion of Ocean Observatories initiative. So let me show you what that entails. So OOI has several arrays scattered around the US and a little beyond. We have a couple of global arrays and a couple of coastal arrays. Woods Hole operates the global arrays and the Coastal Pioneer Array. They operate their own gliders, but they're a little separate from us. Maybe someday we'll hear from Colin Dobson or Peter Brickley from that group. Then there's the Regional Cabled Array, which is operated by University of Washington, and they have undersea cable and data and power to some array components. And then we at Oregon State University operate the Coastal Endurance Array off the Oregon and Washington coast on the west coast. So the Endurance Array mainly is composed of two lines of moorings. There's a line off of Grays Harbor, Washington, and then a line off of Newport, Oregon. And at each of those, there's three mooring sites. One at a 25-meter isobath, one at the 80-meter isobath, and then one at the 500-meter isobath. Off the Oregon line, it's kind of close to and sort of interacts a little bit with the regional cabled array from University of Washington. But for us, we run primarily 8 glider lines. We have a total of 12 Slocum gliders that we operate. 9 of those are G2 and 3 of those are G3s. And we're kind of in the process of trying to upgrade them all to G3s through the trade-in program. Of those 8 lines, 4 of those are priority lines. We have the priority lines kind of run between the moorings and extend them offshore. So we have a Grays Harbor line and a Newport line. And we have 2 portions of those lines, a 200-meter line for the inshore. So we run 200-meter gliders. And then a 1,000-meter line is the offshore where we run the deeper gliders. The remaining 4 lines we kind of run as gliders are available. With 12 gliders, we aim to have 6 in the water continuously, but with only 12, that's kind of difficult to run given service and repair delays things. So we really can occupy most often the priority lines with 4 gliders. Right now we have 5 out there, and this is the current picture. Oregon State itself, though, is located about 40 miles back inland from Newport, Oregon. It's nestled in the Willamette Valley, just next to the coastal range. Our facility in particular, we call the Ocean Observing Center. It's an off-campus facility in the south of Corvallis. It's an old warehouse with lots of yard space for our mooring operations. We have large moorings, so it's really nice to have the big yard to build those up in. As part of a larger mooring facility, we have access to cranes, large and small forklift, and a nice size high bay with a large gantry crane. This comes in handy a lot for glider operations. It makes it really easy to load the truck or lift gliders up to put into glider crates for shipping. The back right, we have 4 labs in the back of the high bay here. A electronics lab, a platform lab for the moorings, a profiler lab, and water sampling lab. And then on the back right there is our glider shop / lab. We have some access to basic machine shop capabilities, milling, lathe, drill press, welding, grinding, etc. Comes in handy a lot for the moorings, less so for the gliders, but it's there if we need it. In our electronics lab, we can do a lot more advanced electronic analysis and repair. Between the E-Lab and the glider lab, we have all the Molex connectors and pins and crimpers that we need to do any repairs, which is, we find, most often the case, what needs to be repaired. In the corner of our profiler lab, we have some sort of rudimentary water sampling capabilities. We have a DI water maker, fume hood for chemical mixing. We have oxygen titration set up. And we just recently built a kit where we're going to start doing Ondera 2-point recalibrations in lab. So we have a chiller set up and stirrers, and then we will do Winkler titrations to do those calibrations. Here's our actual glider shop. We have 931 square feet space. We have this really nice I-beam that runs the length of the lab, and a rolling hoist that can run the entire length of the lab. So we can pick up on the floor as soon as we get in the lab and put it on any of the benches, or all the way back to the ballast tank in the very back. So on the back right, we have our small supply storage, our parts and bits and pieces. In the middle right, we have our vertical glider storage rack. And then we have our kind of computer station and documentation station on the fore right. On the back left, we have ballast tank filtration and then our tool bench. And then in the foreground left, we have basically glider assembly component storage. Our ballast tank is 1,800 gallons. Yeah, that's right. 1,800 gallons of fresh water. It sits right on the concrete floor, but we built this deck up around the edges. So it makes it really nice to get close to the water line, and you can easily reach in, add weights as you're ballasting, or do different things so the glider is needed. We use pool filtration system that we run at night, and then we also have a semi-automated automatic refill with control sensors to shut it off. And we have a nice drainage system that makes it really easy to drain and refill the tank as necessary. So our glider rack is the vertical storage, similar to what most of you have. And we can fit 8 gliders on this rack. So kind of our operating mode is, because we have 12 main gliders, but we're trying to get at least 6 in the water, we try to keep some spare components on hand, spare science bays, forward engines. We run ADCPs, the DVL bays. So we keep these Pelican cases to store and to ship our extra components. Our workbenches are rolling, so we can roll them out in the high bay if necessary, or reconfigure the lab. Each bench has its own set of tool drawers. I like to keep at least the basic opening and closing tools, things like O-ring picks, at each of the 3 benches. Our workstation setup is a small SFMC server that controls all 12 gliders over a couple of call-all FreeWave modem boxes. This is just for in-lab preparation and data keeping. For our actual production deployment, we have a server up on the server room in campus, and it has much higher capabilities than this one. So one of the things in our garage that we're kind of proud of is a former colleague designed and built this all aluminum non-magnetic compass calibration stand. So we mount it out here in the yard, and it's registered to true north. That top plate can spin, and we have detents that can mark true north and 15-degree increments through the 360-degree compass. quite nice to have things like forklift from the mooring group to load our gliders onto the cradle, and we have a mobile command communication cart that we can use to run compass calibrations. It spins and it pitches, and then we can roll the glider in the cart to get nice calibration. Once we're done with calibrations, we can lock that pitch motion in place and then spin it through the 360 degrees, reading from the free wave as we go. And we basically make a soft and hard iron correction curve for the compass. Since we run ADCPs on our gliders, we're trying to use those corrections to get as close to true compass headings as possible. That same colleague that designed the compass stand designed a bail for us. I know a lot of people like to use a bail that connects fore and aft over the science bay. But because we have a spherical Pearce sensor there that we didn't want to cast any shadow over, he designed us this sort of small shark fin kind of bail. And despite that it only connects into one point, it's been great over about 130 deployments so far and never had one break. It's been great for lifting and loading the boat with a crane or pulling out of the water with rough seas. So it's been great. That same colleague also designed a set of modular poles for us that we really like. It's got carbon fiber and it's modular in the sense that I can connect multiple lengths of poles together, in addition to end components that I can clip on. And so this gives us a range that we can use from small fishing vessels or from the global class UNOLS vessels where there's much larger freeboard to the water surface. Some of our end components that we can clip in are this recovery carabiner clip. To the left there is what we like to call our shepherd's hook. It's nice to put down in the water and sort of hold on to the glider while somebody else clips the bail. Or we can, there's a antenna extension connection there. So like often on the UNOLS vessels, we find free wave can kind of be blocked by some of the superstructure. And so we can make this additional extension pole and extend free wave antenna to where we need it. We have these two Pelican cases that are ready to go at all times with coax cable and all the tools we need for the pretty minor repairs, spare pieces. And then our Go to Sea Iridium Go satellite phone. If any of you ever use the Go, we really like it. Many people with cell phones can connect to the Go and use it as a sat phone or text messages. It's pretty great. We also have this custom cell internet / GPS antenna that we like to bring with us. We can mount it on even fishing vessels and run a cable into the lab, and we can get cell phone internet farther out than typical. So it's pretty great. Our usual deployment method is on the small vessels, and we just do the usual slide it off the cart into the water. But when we go on our 6-month mooring turn cruises, we often go on larger global class UNOLS vessels. And so we do like this the TWR made deployment cart, which you lower it down into the water. So about 90% is underwater, and then a float up at the top releases the glider and very gently tumbles into the water. It makes it nice for vessels like the Sekuliak where you have something like 12 feet of freeboard. Makes it much gentler. Since we also are doing mooring ops, we do also have this nice sea van that we bring. It's half-size usual cargo van, and we stock it full of our any repair equipment we have or equipment necessary for deploying or recovering moorings as well as gliders. So that's about it. Thank you very much.
Excellent presentation. That's a very complete lab there for sure. I just kind of had one question, and it's so you have quite a bit of capability. Do you ever have anybody outside of the OOI project come there and use the lab, or is that something that's open for folks to share? If I don't know how you would work that business-wise, but I'm just curious. Yeah.
There is an OSU, so OOI is, we're kind of rote data gathering more
Hmm.
than specific research.
Right.
But there is an OSU research group at OSU, and they come over and use our lab, our ballasting tank, and our compass stand quite
Okay.
often. So it is open, but they're the only ones that have really used it.
Right, because they're local more. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's that compass calibration. That was impressive. Yeah.
yeah. And if anybody is
Questions?
curious about
Anybody? Hank.
design for that kind of stuff, we do have the designs available.
Okay. That's maybe of interest to some folks for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Hank.
Hey, thanks so much for your presentation, Stuart. That was awesome to see your setup. And thanks also for offering up some designs on the toys. I employ your hooks up here in Alaska, the retrieval hooks, and they are fantastic. So really like that design. My question is, when I look at the glider, the DAC, the Data Access Center, and I look at the lines that people are running all throughout the United States or the world, your lines are so straight. They're like arrows. And I want to know, how often are you using the thruster and how often are you gliding? Because they seem like there's just no currents out there pushing your gliders around.
I see otherwise. um, our our thrusters, we don't have thrusters. We tried them in the early design of the thrusters, and they kind of didn't fit for us. I think it's the 1,000-meter gliders that we run offshore. That's probably what you see when your eye first looks at the deck. Those have been really steady. Our inshore ones, they get pushed around all the time, just as everybody else's does. I think we had one. We had one just this last turn. It got caught in some feature, and it lost navigational capabilities, and it just spun in place for 2 months. So
Cool. Yeah,
Any other?
thanks.
Yep. Any other raised hands, real quick? We're pretty much almost out of time for Stuart, but any last minute? I'd like, and at some further time, I'd like to talk to you more about the thrusters. You know, you talked about that because it seems like it's a good option to have when you need it. But I guess what you're saying, it kind of interferes with other things. So yeah, but we can have that
yeah,
conversation at another time. All right. So I think James is back on. I actually introduced you, James. I don't know if you heard, but I'll go ahead and let you move on since I did introduce you to the group already.
I did hear, yeah. Can
Okay.
people hear me this time?
Can you people raise their hand and say they hear them? I do. Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
Okay, awesome. Okay, all right. Okay, so my name is James. I work for Fisheries and Oceans Canada at Pacific Biological Station in Nanaimo. I guess I might be here for contrast to Stuart's presentation or possibly comic relief. So you'll see why in a minute. Okay, so C-Proof isn't a government department or institution as such. It is a collaboration between several different institutions. CFO that I work for is one of them. But there are several, more than I think are listed here, and certainly many more people and researchers than are listed here. But this is sort of the core group that I work with on gliders. C-Proof also does more than gliders. How much more? I'm not entirely sure. I think we have moorings and possibly Argo floats, but I just work on gliders. So this slide, as you can see it, has some of the main people. Jody Climack at UVic is the PI. He's the person who wrote the grants that got us most of our money. Stephanie Waterman and Chris at UBC have a glider that they contribute to the project. The Hakai Institute is an important partner. They have a research station at Calvert Island, and they launch and recover our gliders up there for us. So we're able to maintain a line farther north because of them. I'll just move on to the next slide. We're just north of Stuart in British Columbia. I thought about putting his lines on as well. They do look a lot straighter than ours, but so the big line that goes all the way across the screen, some of the oceanographers might recognize it. It's line P, and it's I think 1,400 kilometers. I can't remember if that's round trip or one way. It's a long ways off. A standard Slocum with a single-use battery does that in about 4 months. So that's our longest line. And then the northern one going out of Calvert Island is the one that the Akai Institute does for us. So right now we have a Slocum glider up there, but in the past we've had Alsamar gliders. We're a little better suited to the shorter line up there, but yeah, I guess you'll go on to the next slide. So what I mean by contrasting with Stuart's presentation, we're not a big program. In a lot of ways, we're just getting started. We have plans to occupy those lines that I showed you, 3 of them, continuously. So have 3 gliders in the water. So far, I think we've only managed that once, and currently we only have 1 glider in the water. In some ways, we're just starting. I've worked on gliders for 4 years, but our workshop we just got about 2 years ago. We had it previously, and as soon as I started working on gliders, they decided to renovate it, and it took 2 years, and we worked out of a temporary space until then. So we just started setting up our space, and that's what most of the rest of this talk is about, just about literally what's in our garage. And in a way, I think it shows that you maybe don't have to have all the fun toys and bells and whistles and huge dedicated space like some of the other people who give them presentations, although I would really love to have some of these other spaces I've seen. So this is the door to our garage, and it's literally a garage door. The space that we have is actually shared with 2 other programs, one of which is the program I worked with previously that does ROV and drop camera work. And within that space, I have a very small dedicated space for gliders that is only about 200 square feet. So I'm not sure how easy that floor plan is to see on the presentation, but the bottom left corner that's highlighted, that's the dedicated glider space. And it's only about 200 square feet, so 16 by 12. The highlighted square in the middle is where I have a pallet rack that I store gliders on. And then the highlighted at the top is just the door that you saw going into the space. This is our fleet. Well, this is half of our fleet right now. We have a mixed fleet of Slocum and Alsamar gliders. So when I started, we just had 1 of each. And within a few years, we had increased that to these 5. So this is sort of what I think of as our original fleet, 3 Slocums and 2 Alsamar gliders. And then, there we go. Last summer, we took delivery of 5 new Slocum gliders, 2 standard ones and 3 extended energy day gliders, all of which have rechargeable batteries. So we are now up to 10 gliders with 2 more on order. And up until now, we've only had 1 dedicated glider technician, which is me, which has been a little rough. But starting next month, we're hoping to hire somebody. We're just in the process of making them an offer. So we're going to double our technician staff next month. I'm excited about that. So not quite as fancy as Stuart, but we have 1-ton cranes that we can use to load and unload vehicles. And unlike the standard rack that I haven't really seen before, we just have a pallet rack. So we can store sort of up to 6 gliders in this space. There would be room for more if the crane went all the way to the ceiling, but something you'll see, our space has been outfitted almost exclusively with Uline and Home Depot. So the pallet rack comes from Uline. Here's another view of the space. As I said, it's shared, so this is a view of the shared space. So I've filled out into the shared space with my glider storage rack, and you can see I've got a glider by the door there waiting to go outside. Like Stuart and a few other people, I work on my gliders on rolling benches, actually rolling adjustable height benches. And if I'm going to work on more than one, I have to roll them in and out of the space because the space I have to work on gliders is quite small. So this is the space where I take apart gliders and fix them. As you can see, a heavy presence of Home Depot shop furniture. Can't remember if that's I have one electrically height adjustable bench and one manual one. I think that's the electrical one, but the other one comes from Home Depot. Yeah, nothing fancy, just regular tool chests and shelving. Here's another view. I've cleaned it up for this picture. This is how I imagine it is. It's going to be all the time, but in reality, it's a lot more crowded. So this is, I rolled the bench out, but this is what it sort of looks like when I'm working on the glider. So I've got the bench in the middle and all the pieces off to the side. And I have to be sort of creative to fit them all. You can see on the left, I've made a stand for holding the aft section of the glider vertically. And on the right, I've got just a piece of pipe and some plastic tubing for holding the nose section vertically. And I learned to do that the hard way. I've had glider sections sneak off of the bench and jump onto the floor when I was looking. So yeah, those are custom to prevent that in the future. Here's another view of the space, just more pictures of Home Depot and Uline stuff. So in addition to the indoor space, we have an outdoor space. It isn't very big, but we've had it custom built over the past couple of years. So the slab that the glider is sitting on has fiberglass rebar, so we can do compass calibrations on it. We sometimes have wildlife visit us while we're doing that. It's kind of funny. And this is our ballasting system. So I don't remember how many meters this is, but it's about 1.5 meters long by 2.5 meters, or 1.5 meters wide by 2.5 meters long. So there is a gantry crane there that's mainly for the other programs, so that there are ROV drop cameras. Can't really see it on the side there. I use what's called a hoist frame, an electric hoist. I use it there's a pole mounted to the side of the tank, an electric hoist on there, and you can get that stuff from Amazon or Home Depot. And the reason I use that is I can lift the glider in and out of the tank by myself, whereas I can't use the gantry crane. The gantry crane takes kind of 3 people. This is a better view of the lift setup. You can see the electric hoist organization because it sort of got around some of the restrictions for lifting equipment, like it's ready-made and the instructions say just to mount it securely to a pole. So I've installed this according to the instructions, whereas most of the other solutions would require huge amounts of engineering to install. Like the crane in the other building probably cost several $100,000 just for the foundation and installation and certification, whereas this electric hoist I bought off of Amazon. And then about all we have left to go over is the glider case storage shed, which is just the garden shed. And the last thing, I guess, is we don't have any boats, so we're all ships of opportunity, I guess we call them. We beg, borrow, steal, and sometimes pay for ships. So the main way we launch gliders on the west coast of Vancouver Island is with the Canadian Coast Guard Search and Rescue. They are happy to go for boat rides as long as we recover our gliders and we don't have to pay for their fuel costs. And as I mentioned previously, up at Calvert Island, the Half Institute launches and recovers our gliders. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, James. That's definitely optimize smaller space. And you said you're due to get 7 more. Is that correct?
2 more. So we'll have
2 more. I'm sorry.
12 total. So a similar number of gliders to Stuart down south. And I think he has a similar number of staff as well. But he has a much bigger space.
Also, just FYI, if you do advertise for a position, we do have a spot on the UG2 website where you can put advertisements out, and we're willing to host that for you. So,
awesome, thank you.
Anybody have questions for James? I don't see anything in the chat. Okay. Thank you very much. Excellent presentation and great optimization of limited space. That's for sure. All right. Oh, wait. Okay, that was a clap. Thought it was a question. I think next up we have standing in for Dan Hayes, correct, is Ihsan Abdi. Is that correct? I may have messed up your name, the pronunciation.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, good, cool. He's the head engineer at Cyprus Subsea Consulting and Services, and his background is in electronics engineering, and he has been working intensively with ocean-going sensors and platforms for the past 6 years. He's been involved in a variety of novel sensor integration on autonomous platforms such as gliders. So Ihsan, go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, thanks. Everyone, just gonna go ahead and share my screen. Can't share it, I don't know why. Chrome tab.
I think it's coming up now.
I'm just sharing my folder.
Yeah, I don't see the brief, but yeah.
I don't know why I cannot share the presentation. It's just Windows. I can either share Chrome. I can't share the PowerPoint for some reason. The entire screen doesn't really work. Okay, yeah, now I got it. Sorry. Can everyone see this?
Yes, we got it. Yep.
There we go. Yeah, so hi everyone. My name is Ihsan Abdi. I think the introduction you received was plenty. So I'm a head engineer at Cyprus Subsea, and yeah, I've been working on gliders and underwater gliders and sensors for the last 8 years now. And I'm filling in for Dan, who is in a concert, playing in a concert. It's his side gig, I guess, in case this whole glider business doesn't work out. Who we are. So I'm going to talk about two different establishments. One, Cyprus Subsea, C.S.C.S, based in Cyprus, and our sister company in US, Advanced Offshore Operations. So our base is basically in Cyprus, Eastern Mediterranean. Now we're from sea. We are about around 6 people, oceanographers, marine biologists, and different engineers, hardware, software, technicians, admin. And then we have also this sister company that I will come back to in a bit. Just a little bit about what we do. So mainly glider operations, sensor integrations on gliders, and maintenance and operations of gliders. But we also do a little bit of other seagoing systems, integrations of sensors on moorings, buoys, and data analysis for full ocean depth. And this is kind of new that now we're, as of a month ago or so, we're globally supporting sea glider customers with services and training and spares, taking it over from Huntington Ingalls. So I'm gonna talk actually about 3 garages, one based in Nicosia, our main garage, Cyprus, the second one in Portoras. This is a very new one. So I'm not going to have a lot to share about this one since we're just setting this up. And the third one being in Washington. So this is where Cyprus is, in case some of you might not know. It's a small country in the Mediterranean, Eastern Mediterranean. And this is a zoom. This is exactly where we are at this dot. And that's our warehouse. This is a nice, neat photo of our warehouse, and there's a theme as we go along this presentation. You will see that it's gets messier and messier. Now there's a few buoys and a bunch of gliders and sensors in there. We have so the weather, in case you don't know, weather is quite nice. Year round, so we have an outdoor pool that if you need to do ballasting, we just do it there, or as I will come back to it, we'll just do it at sea. So this is actually, so this was not in Dan's presentation. This is actually what it looks like right now. I just took this photo in the afternoon. We have a bunch of glider integrations and repairs to finish to be sent to their customers, and this is how the workshop looks right now. So I'll touch a little bit about so we have our capabilities in the workshop. We'll do PCB design, assembly, custom battery manufacturing for sea glider. We haven't started on Slocum yet, but I guess we'll do that in a bit. Any kind of rapid prototyping. So I just grabbed a photo of the 3D printer, which was printing today, but we have different types of printers, CNC machine, small CNC machine, and we have machine shops nearby if you need to do something more advanced. And also, yeah, of course, molding and potting and stuff like that. So I'll move on to our second garage in Portoras, which I don't have a photo of it yet, but I'll just draw your attention maybe a little bit about the bathymetry of Cyprus. One of the reasons Cyprus is a great place for glider operations, just because it's a volcanic island. It's just drops quite rapidly, the depth, and so within 10 minutes of boat ride, boat ride, we get to like 1,000 meters of water. Also, because of the other geographic advantages that we have really calm water. So this is how the ski looks like in December, or yeah, basically most of the year. And this workshop is this new workshop that we got is in an area where there is a as you can see, you might be able to see this bay. This small bay is very well protected, and it's the scuba schools. They use it as a basically as a pool for their pool sessions. So it's perfect for ballasting. We just take it down to this bay and we just drop the glider there and we ballast it there even if it's windy out. And that means also we can just swim with the glider, take photos like that. Like this one, this is one of our recent integrations of the UVP6 underwater vision profiler on the glider, which is going to go to Norway. Yeah, and our third garage is up in Bingen, Washington, and this was set up in order to take all the inventory from or basically to take over all the operations from Huntington Ingalls and set up the workshop to give support to all the Sea Glider customers. So yes, as you can imagine, a bunch of stuff, gliders and pressure testing facilities and different kind of labs. And we have an engineer there who has an extensive experience with sea gliders, who will be assisting us in servicing gliders. Just a summary of our facilities. As you can see, I think I touched on pretty much all of those points. Or maybe I didn't mention the servers that we have. So we have both Sea Glider base stations and Slocum dock service set up, which we can give services to customers. We have both Iridium Rudix from Metocean and CLS supported on those, and Iridium PSTN also. That's pretty much it. So we have our own 3 Sea Gliders of our own in Nicosia and 5 Sea Gliders in Bingen, but we do a lot of services on different Slocums and Sea Gliders from all over the world, from customers all over the world. Yeah, I would say our strengths are good engineers and pilots in 2 opposing time zones, good access to deep water, to deep sea year-round, both Sea Glider and Slocum capabilities for operation, sensor integration, and comms. Yeah, easy boat rental. Next steps, indoor ballast pool. Maybe we need it, maybe not. Now that we're moving, especially closer to sea and easy, nice calm water access. Our own boat, we're actually working on that. So we might have our own boat in a few months' time. Redundant internet. I'm not sure actually what Dan meant by that, but I guess another so fiber optic lines in both locations and a backup server, maybe backup of all the servers that we already have. That's pretty much it. So thank you, everyone. So any questions, I'm here to answer.
Thank you very much, Isan. Questions, anybody? Trying to look in the... I think, Hank, did you have a question on batteries?
I did have a question. It was for James about his run back and forth to Ocean Station Papa.
Okay.
I don't know if he's still on the line or not. Thanks for your talk, Isan. That was really cool.
No problem.
It'd be nice to have a UG2 conference there. It looks pretty.
Oh, yeah. You're all welcome.
Thank you. All right. If there's no further questions, thank you very much. And thanks for filling in for Dan as well. I'll thank you for him. So thanks. All right. I think we'll go ahead and move on to our next topics. I'm not sure you have the slide there, Cordie, but I believe Cordie is going to talk next, correct?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
And it does not want to let me share PowerPoint. Cordie, do you mind sharing it? Just a couple slides. Housekeeping stuff.
Sure thing.
And I'll go ahead and introduce Cordie real quick. A lot of you folks may know her already, but Cordie works for Teledyne as a customer supports application engineer and a member of the glider support team. In her new role, she's providing customer support and training for users, creating and updating user documentation, piloting TWR gliders, and assisting in the final test of new vehicles and beta testing of new Slocum hardware and software. And she had been with the Bermuda Institute of Ocean Sciences, where she was a glider research specialist managing the Mid-Atlantic Initiative and Collaboration, MAGIC Lab. And Cordie received her bachelor's of math from Washington and a master's of marine studies from the University of Delaware. So go ahead, Cordie, and I think it's up. It's showing, so go ahead and take it away. Yep.
Thank you so much. We're really excited to do this demo with Ben.
Hey, Cordie, real quick,
Yes.
I don't know, at least for me, you're breaking up a little bit. Yeah.
Oh, no. Let's see.
It's choppy, and I see somebody else put it up there as well as an issue. Yeah. Might be the mic you're using. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Let's see. I'll try computer mic instead.
Sometimes if you're using the ear, yeah.
Can you hear me?
Still doing the same. Yeah.
Same. Not sure. I can try to call in.
Want to try and call in? Try and call in. That might work. That does. I've seen that before. Yep.
Why don't you, Ben, do you want to go ahead and start the demo since I'm having microphone issues?
You want to go ahead?
I'll need to share my screen, so I'll try that now.
I hear you well. We'll see if we see your screen.
Good.
So Ben, I think many people also know Ben, but he worked for Teledyne Research for over 20 years. At TWR, he had various roles over these years, including the Slocum Glider Product Line Manager and the Glider Technical Support and Ops Manager, until moving to the National Oceanography Center in the fall of 2021 in Southampton, England. At NOC, he's a glider engineer, presently working on the integration of new hardware and backseat driver functionality to allow for safe Slocum ops for extended periods of time near and under ice. So, okay, go ahead, Ben. I don't see
you can just confirm that you can see an SFMC screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I guess first, apologies for those of you who are not glider operators. This is going to be a pretty rapid demonstration of how to write a mission using the SFMC firmware. And to do that, I guess I give you a quick summary similar to the backseat to the what's in my garage. At NOC, we have 30 gliders. There's essentially 6 or 7 sea gliders, 3 G3s, and 20 or something G2s. And there's 6 glider engineers that are sort of full time and what I would say are tier 1 pilots. And then we have a bunch of, let's say 10 to a dozen sort of tier 2 pilots that can fill in where we need it. And those 30 gliders next year are committed fully. So we are planning on being quite busy. So in that note, I think that, presently, I think there was some conversation about this when I volunteered to do this. As a tier 1 pilot, I don't use the mission writing for FSMC much, but I'd like to with some new features. So I'm encouraging people to use it and give Teledyne feedback so it becomes a mission writing technique that we can all use, even if you're an advanced pilot. But I think right now, if you consider yourself a sort of tier 2 pilot or a watcher, that these mission writing techniques could be quite useful to make it much safer for somebody without as much experience to pilot a vehicle. Cordie, I see that you maybe are there. Do you want to interject things while I do things behind the scenes that I can explain?
Yeah,
Or
I can interject things if you want.
And I can hear you well now.
Sort of
I can hear you well, Cordie. Yep.
Better. Thank goodness. My gosh, sorry, it's this terrible internet in Massachusetts. We, like Ben said, the mission planning tool on the SFMC is a really good tool. It's definitely a work in progress. So it's good for simple missions, and we can talk more about some things that we hope to integrate into it in the future. It's, our software engineer, Mark Warden, who works on this, is a rock star, and he's always happy to take feedback. So that's something I absolutely love about this software, is that we're constantly evolving it, with the user's needs in mind.
And be careful. I think he's joined the meeting, so we need to be careful about what we say about Mark.
Mark knows I'm obsessed with him and the software. So
what I'm doing, if you're following along on my shared screen, is I am sending off some key files that we will want for this process. For those of you who are glider pilots, I've just sent off the autoexec.mi. I've sent off the proglets.dat, which are our key config files for the science and flight computers. And I've set off the SBDs and TBD lists, which are the data that's going to be sent off the glider. The next thing I'm going to do to write a mission using the SFMC, each glider you would need to do this, but you go to the glider view details page, which is presently blank, but the page here is designed to get an understanding of what this particular vehicle's capabilities are. And you can drop those files that I was just talking about on the autoexec.mi or proglets.mi here, but there's a nice feature to import those files. So I've clicked the import those files feature, and now the SFMC is aware of what type of glider it is and some key config parameters and what science sensors are installed. So the next thing I'm going to do is start writing a mission. So here in mission planning, there's a drop-down menu, and I'm going to go create a mission plan. And I've decided earlier that I'm going to call all of these a single name, which I'm going to copy now so that it's available for me to paste in each time. Demo SFMC is the mission plan I'm going to create. This is one thing I find slightly awkward sometimes. You need to potentially refresh this page and or grab your name here. So sorry, now we're going to create a waypoint plan for this mission plan. Clicking on create waypoint plan, and I'm going to just call them all the same thing here. So we're going to go across these tabs across the top of here and create mission plans for all these. And there's my demo SFMC. And modify this list. So now I can pan to a specific location or pan to the glider's last location. I'm going to try that. So it's here in the UK, although technically I had planned on being in the UK for this demonstration, but I'm here at Clayton's house on Cape Cod using Clayton's internet. And there's the blue map. NOC in Southampton's here, but I'm just going to quickly click on the map using the button, over here on the right, you can see a little bar that's going to allow me to click on the map and make 3 waypoints. And this is the feature I use the most for the mission writing tool to make sure that I don't typo a waypoint plan and I can compare the glider's positions against, previous positions potentially, and or view it against other maps. You can manually enter points, but I'm going to kind of go through this pretty quickly. You can pick some other parameters. While you're editing each of these features, you are the only person who can edit. So once you're done editing, you need to release the plan and move on to your next piece. So now we're looking at the demo one. It tells me everything about this one, and I could switch to some other waypoint plan at this point, but we're going to just create a demo one across all of these different features. So I'm going to create a new one here as well for surface reasons, demo SFMC. And some of these features, obviously, you need to understand what they mean. Obviously, you need to go to training if you've not done this. So I'm going to modify this plan. And yes, I want to maybe surface for hitting a waypoint and continue the mission. And yes, I want to surface every X number of seconds, but we'll put that out to an hour, maybe. Oh. I'll hit save. So there's a couple different reasons to surface. And again, I'm going to release the surface plan and move on to my next mission behavior. I'm going to create a yo behavior, give it the same name. So I did this the other day, and it took me about 6 to 7 minutes to do this without talking. So I'm hopeful to keep on roughly the same schedule for doing it while talking. So I'm going to modify. Oops. We're doing the yo now. So yo, I'm going to modify the demo. And modify that yo plan. What is that happening? Oh, there we go. So maybe we want to climb to a different depth, 5 meters, and dive to deeper than the default. And yeah, we probably want to include target altitude of maybe 12 meters off the bottom. So there's a fairly standard looking mission dive plan. I'm going to hit save on that. And then keep moving across the top here. We have to create a sampling plan. I'm going to give it the same name. So this is going to control our science sampling. And I'm going to modify that one. Can't read Mark's message at the moment. I missed it. Did anybody else see what Mark's message was? I'm just going to do all science sensors all the time. And we'll say skip first yo for this time. And the rest of that I'm going to say is fine.
Mark is saying that he just wanted to let you know there's a warning icon next to the Slocum Fleet Mission Control logo. Not sure if a service is down or lack of disk space. So yeah, that's what he's thinking.
We sent off, I think this is an issue that Mark will be aware of. I believe we turned off all of the data visualization tools the other day because we were purging data through FreeWave. So many months worth of data were purged through FreeWave on these vehicles the other day. So we turned off, and my guess is that's why that warning's there. So mission sensor, in this case, I'm going to create a new file. Again, in this example, I am going to drag and drop files from previously because this is a really long and laborious thing to do, and I think most users will already have some SBDs and TBD lists they like. So we're going to modify, oops, mission center, modify. So And the next set, we're going to allow for me to drag and drop. So I think the rest of this is fine. Actually, maybe we'll turn the altimeter on at 10 meters deep or something. And I prefer only if a glider has never sent it for my own reasons. Maybe we can discuss that out of class at some point, but transfer if it's never sent it before is my preferred setting here. So I'm hitting save there. And abort, we will create a mission abort plan. So you're just going across and creating all these plans. And again, these are probably things you need to go to training for to understand what they do, which I'm sure Cordie would be happy to talk to you about at some point if you have not had training. It's funny, so depending what battery type you're using, you might change your voltage for abort. I'm going to change that to 12, although it says 12.5 for 4S, so we're going to change it to 12.5 for 4S. And maybe we do want to use a max waypoint distance of 30,000 meters, and we'll hit save. And then lastly, the data transmission, and we'll release the plan. Maybe that's why I'm having trouble in these other things. I forgot to release the plan. So lastly, data transmission plan. I'm going to create a new data transmission plan, give it the same name. And because I've practiced this enough, I think one of the most awkward parts of using this is the fact that you create a plan, but then you need to come back and select it. So that's a tip for you, Mark. I think once you create a plan, it should maybe automatically force you into that plan. So I'm going to modify this selected plan, and this is where I'm going to use a drag and drop. I'd sent the files off, but I also have a copy here of the two files I want. So if you can see on my screen, I've got the SBD list. That's the default from NOC that we always use. I'm just going to simply drag and drop that to the drop zone here. And that's going to populate a bunch of information on the side, oops, which it just did. Don't know why I haven't seen what it's doing before. It's bouncing to other pages unexpectedly. I'm not doing that, I don't think. So it's parsed all this information from these files, and we now have a whole bunch of variables that are going to get sent back in our data lists. I could have gone through and added these all individually, but we would have been here all day. So this is how I'm saving us time. So now that I've released that, I guess I should check to make sure that all of them are released. Yep, we're going to release this one. Sampling, release that one. So
And
now
the
we
reason that
have
you have
all
to release them is because I think we talked about mentioned this before, is that you don't want more than one pilot editing a file at a time. So you lock it while you edit it, and then you release it to the rest of your group.
So now I've released the mission. I believe I have all the pieces there for this mission. And now I just need to go back to my actual glider and associate, we'll go this way, this mission with that glider. So here under options for each vehicle, we have access to a mission plan. And this is where I now go to the demo SFMC. Cannot update the waypoint in progress. Does that mean I need to go back and check that that's been released? Right here. Sorry, I was not expecting that. That did not happen during
We know it's live.
So that's released. back to the glider. Oh, I don't know why the error has gone away, but now it doesn't seem to have an error there. So I've assigned the mission I've just created. I'm going to click process here. And it says all mission plans are valid, and you have an option to generate the files and change the mission name if you'd like with the mission file name here. But I'm just going to leave this as is and generate the files. And I'm going to generate all. These are all the pieces to the mission. Click generate. And if I now go to the glider terminal page for this vehicle, I have 8 files in the 2 glider folder and 1 file in the 2 science folder, and I would send all those pieces of the mission in. You can just quickly look at what those are. But there's our SBD list, our SFMC.mi, all the different pieces. You could download them all locally. So that is a very quick run through. And one of the reasons this was brought up was I think Hank had probably mentioned during the last webinar that there was maybe trouble with editing files, and I guess fundamentally I highly recommend Notepad++ and or TextPad. Both of those text editors I've never had any problems with personally. I'd love to hear if there are other text editors that people use that they don't have problems with, but those are the 2 I would recommend since I've never had issues with them. And I'm just checking my notes. I think Mark's been commenting, but I think I've got a bunch of feedback having used this recently that I'll send off to glider support if that's where we'd like to send the feedback for improvements for the SFMC mission writer. I'd love to see personally the mission. You can drag and drop all those different pieces of the mission, like a waypoint file in, etc. But if you have sort of advanced or intermediary features in that file, it will refuse it. I'd love to see the option for a pilot to be sort of a tier 1 or a tier 2 pilot. And if a tier 2 pilot drops in a intermediate mission, maybe it should just throw up a warning and say, these are unsupported features for a tier 1 pilot, but we think you know what you're doing as a tier 2 pilot. Proceed at risk with these features within the MA file you dropped or something. So that's it. I think I've hit all the things I'd intended to do. Any questions, or Cordie, would you like to add to what you've seen?
Yeah, I think that was a really good explanation, Ben. Thanks so much for going through that. So Ben showed creating a mission from start to finish, which you have to do at some point. Mark made a comment in here that was a good one, that you can clone a mission, and then sometimes it's easier to go in and edit those individual parts. Another really nice functionality of this, Ben was going through and creating new individual plans. But for example, for the SBD list, you could already have one created, and maybe it's called shallow glider SBD list. And then instead of uploading the file, you can just go and click one that's already created. So that's kind of where it can save you time. Another thing that I see a lot is a lot of us who've been piloting for a while, before these nice tools existed, and these tools are so much nicer than what was here before, we kind of have our own way of doing things. So I think some of the things that we're trying to work in as well is how do we make features that can sort of be adapted to people who already have things set up. So maybe if I'm doing an advanced mission, I'm not going to use the mission planning tool for the whole entire thing. But like Ben said, I love the waypoint one. So I'm definitely going to use the waypoint one for every single mission I do, because I love how it plots it on the map and how it checks my positions. So you can go in and individually make a waypoint plan and assign it to your glider deployment without going through the whole mission planning process on the SFMC if you're not interested in using that whole thing. So we're going to continue to work to try to make individual pieces accessible. So maybe I just want to make a yo file on there. I'm going to do a standard yo file, but I want to do something funky with my surface behaviors. I can go in and just make the yo file, assign it to my glider. I would have to download and upload the file, but it's still, the SFMC is going to make it for me, which is really nice. Mark and I sit down often and sort of talk about brainstorming about what we want to implement. So again, you can email glider support for requests. we are happy to hear any requests. I can't promise that every request will be put in because everyone has different needs, and we'll prioritize those based on our feel for the community. But it's a really nice tool, and we recognize that, you know, gliders are hard, so these types of tools make them more accessible to more people, and that's a priority for us. And can I just touch on my slides really quick? We don't even have to go back to them, but I would just like to take this opportunity to remind people that Mark does release new versions of the SFMC. So if you're running an old version of SFMC, we would encourage you to upgrade the software. Thank you, Ben. You can go to the About tab and see which version you're running. Currently, we have up to 8.6 released, but version 8.7 will be coming out soon. So if you're up to date on your subscription for SFMC, you can also reach out to Glider Support to get the upgrade. And everyone's a little hesitant to upgrade software anywhere, it seems, but we do encourage you to upgrade to take advantage of the new features and the bug fixes. So upgrade your SFMC.
I saw Catherine asked, and I was kind of curious about this too. Can you import or export JSON or XML versions?
Of the mission files?
I believe that's what you're asking, correct, Catherine? Yes.
No, you cannot. It's just going to download them as like a text file ending with
Okay.
.ma or .mi for the mission files.
Okay. Any other quick questions, comments? I mean, I think this is a great opportunity to provide feedback to Cordie and the team there, Mark, to, you know, like they said, you have to prioritize based on where the majority of the people are asking for the improvements. It's an iterative process. So, and a quick question just came, I think Mark may have answered it already. Somebody asked, how do we upgrade our SFMC? Is it by user or by group? And specific mission plan, MA files, and files can be uploaded.
So for the upgrade question,
Yeah.
if you are, and this is confusing for everyone, and everyone says they understand it, and then they ask, it's confusing, right? So the SFMC is a software that is installed on a server, and there's lots of different instances of that software. If you subscribe to our SFMC, the Teledyne Webb SFMC, and you're connecting to our Iridium server, for example, for your gliders, our SFMC is going to be up to date because Mark is going to push that update as soon as it's available. If you are hosting your own SFMC, you should update, or if you have a local version of SFMC, like you have a laptop with SFMC installed, then you should update. But if you're calling into our Iridium server, you're already using the most recent version.
Great. All right. Well, super. Thanks.
You have a question?
Yeah, could I just make a quick question?
Yeah, sorry, I was hiding the. Sorry, Hank. Go ahead.
No problem at all. Thank you guys so much for making that presentation. Bravo to both of you. Ben, that was the fastest mission. I think you're the fastest mission in the North America right now. Award AT, fastest known time. I think maybe like a lot of glider pilots who have come up through the ranks of maybe lots of years using the product. It's tough to stay on top of what you guys have coming out, right? And so like I took glider training in 2009. There was no SFMC like it exists today. I learned a tremendous amount by watching Ben, and I kind of am able to maybe put myself in Mark Warden's brain and understand the flow a lot better now that I've seen how you guys envision the users, taking on this tool. I think it would be really helpful if you had a way to communicate just a little bit better to the users of your products when new releases are coming out and how you envision us embodying that information and deploying it within our groups. And I think
Hank, that's a really great
a newsletter
Great
or your
point that you bring
website
up.
or bulletins, whatever, because uh, I've noticed quite a few changes in the SFMC. You know, I'm a subscriber to the Teledyne SFMC, so that all of a sudden new releases just come out, and I've got these new features, and I'm like, I wonder what this button does today. You know, and sometimes that's a really helpful feature, and other times, like, I hope it doesn't cause my glider to sink and sit at the bottom of the ocean for the next 2 years, right? Like, we need to know what's coming out and how to deploy it. Essentially, we can't go to training every year to stay up to date. And so kudos to
Well,
you
we
guys
would
for
love to
joining.
see you every year, Hank,
Yeah,
but
no,
you are
no,
correct. That would be too much
kudos to
for
you
me
guys
too.
for participating in the webinar, because this is a really great way to get that information out to the masses.
Yeah, and I'll maybe make one more comment on that we have been thinking about that a lot and talking about that a lot lately, and I know we've gotten feedback from people on that before, and we are working on it. So we're working to we're essentially the glider forum will switch to a new site, and that is not happening yet, but we're working to sort of build it up. And when that happens, we hope to have a better way of sort of mass informing people, having a bulletin. We've also talked about doing sort of video tutorials on different pieces of the SFMC. So we are working on that, and we would like to post them in this new forum when it exists. So myself and Melissa Rossi, who some of you guys have, she's also another rock star, who some of you guys have spoken with, are working to get that set up. It's a really big job, but we absolutely hear you. We will post on the forum the next time an SFMC release is up, and we will post what changes there are there, kind of like we do for the README for the software. But yes, we hear you, and we are very happy to participate in the webinar. Thank you very much for letting us partake, and we are working to make that communication flow better.
Thank you. Thank you to all the speakers. And there's plenty, people can reach out directly to these folks, of course, as well. And I want to thank the speakers for being like right on time. And we got like a minute to close out, which is like perfect. So excellent briefs across the board. And I'm really want to push, the webinars are all about y'all. So if we want to, now we've been sort of on the infrastructure side lately, some science, some industry presentations. Please reach out to me directly or info@underwatergliders.org and say you're willing to present, and we'll thematically put things together and keep this moving, because I think it's worth doing every couple of months. Slack, again, I think is more, I use the word real time, but near real time. You have an issue, get out there on Slack, and people are actively monitoring that and responding. I'm seeing some real good results with that. We actually, Nick and Cordie got our license upgraded on Slack, so we won't lose information after 90 days. Apologize for that, but that is now fixed. So we won't lose information after 90 days. And any other comments, please keep feeding us. And besides that, I know people are very busy and it's exactly 2:30. Any last minute comments or anything? I want to thank everybody again, the presenters as well as the attendees, and our team as well, Cordie, Cassie, Kathy, and Nick. Anything? No. Okay. Sounds perfect. Thanks, everybody. And you all have a great rest of the week and Easter, and we'll see you in a couple months.